It's one final chance for the young players to shine before we start the countdown to the regular season. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. I'm Chris McPherson, joined alongside Fran Duffy as the Eagles host the New York Jets tonight in the annual preseason finale. We won't see the starters as the NFL kickoff event against the Atlanta Falcons is 1 week from tonight. But first things first, Fran, this game is still very important. We can't dismiss the value of it, especially for certain key players on the roster.
Yeah, I would say half the team is fighting for a job, maybe not on the 53, but also on the depth chart. Because remember, it's not just the back end of the roster guys that are playing in this game. You're going to see draft picks like Josh Sweat, Jordan Mailata, and Matt Pryor as well getting a lot of playing time here tonight.
All right, let's send it over to Lincoln Financial Field as we see the offensive line warming up there. And it's going to be intriguing to see which guys get in there, get the reps tonight. We're actually checking out the defensive line there. Winston Craig and Bruce Hector line up on the field, and we get to see some of the one-on-one drills as things get underway here. But the defensive line, the depth there, I think is going to be intriguing tonight because Tim Jernigan is still on the physically unable to perform list. We know all about Fletcher Cox and Haloti Ngata, what he's going to bring. But those depth guys there, it's going to be interesting to see how it fills out the roster.
Yeah, no question. I think that's one of the most interesting roster battles that we're going to see take place over the course of the next 36 hours, mainly over the next 3 in this game. So, you have those names up front in the interior. You have the Destiny Vials, the Haloti Ngatas. You feel like those guys are going to be on the roster. But now you get to the back end of the depth chart. Who's going to be on this team? It's going to be very interesting to see how the numbers shake out along the defensive line.
All right there, so you see the depth chart there. Again, the Eagles have to get to the 53-player limit by 4 p.m. on Saturday, so a critical time for the Eagles and teams around the league as players who have put in a lot of sweat equity are going to have their dreams disappointed come later on this weekend. So as we continue to see the warm-ups there at the link, Rasul Douglas will be in the spotlight tonight. You expect him to see a lot of action. I'm excited for him to make that jump from year 1 to year 2. He's had kind of an up and down training camp and preseason to date, but to me the skills are all there. I would love to see him thrive on the outside as a guy who you figure is going to be a depth guy, but if he's called into action like he was as a rookie, you hope that he'll be able to step up to the task once again. Yeah,
I think what we saw from him last year is that he can step in and be serviceable, and that's what you're hoping that he can be moving forward. That was an awesome scene there with Malcolm Jenkins. But when you look at Rasul Douglas, it's been kind of feast or famine. He's either been making big plays or he's given up a couple this summer. So it'll be interesting just to see how he looks with extended action here tonight. I expect there to be a lot of those DBs worked into today's action.
All right, so we see Malcolm Jenkins there getting ready for action. Look, it's going to be an off night for him, so he has a chance to interact with the fans a little bit. But the safety position there with he and Rodney McLeod in such good hands, arguably the best duo in the NFL. And I just feel that Malcolm Jenkins, his value to this team is so underrated because he can do everything in Jim Schwartz's scheme.
Yeah, he's a leader on and off the field for this Eagles roster, and what he can bring to that defensive side of the football from an X and O standpoint, I think is unmatched when you look at anybody else on this roster.
Are you surprised, as we just saw the team huddle breakdown right there, how juiced from the defensive guys that Steven Means is for tonight's game?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
He sets the tempo day in and day out at practice. It is going to be tremendous because he's a veteran who's been through this 4th preseason game before. Okay, he understands what's on the line, and he knows that a young guy who's going through this for the first time might be trying to do too much. But you have to factor in the fact that these guys have had the entire training camp, 3 preseason games. There's a lot of film, a lot of tape that's already been built up to this point. Steven Means is telling those young guys, just do your thing. Don't try to do anything more. Go out, play fast, play hard, play physical, and beat those boys tonight, as Jeremiah Trotter would say.
If I were to set an over-under on sacks for Steven Means tonight, I might set it at 1.5 and still take the over. Like, he's one of those guys who thrives in this situation.
Indeed. The backup linebacker position is going to be very intriguing. We see Joe Walker there going through warm-ups, see Kyle Wilson as well, because you have to factor in not only are the Eagles going to have to get to this 53-man roster limit, but they're going to also not have Nigel Bradham for week 1 against the Falcons. So Joe Walker could be an important player as Jim Schwartz and Doug Peterson figure out which personnel to put out on the field against the Falcons.
Yeah, and he's been a major factor as the number 2 middle linebacker in most of their base looks with the second team. So, now they've cross-trained Nate Gary and Kamu Grugier-Hill and those guys at number of spots as well. So it'll be interesting just to see how it shakes out. That opening 53 is going to be without Nigel Bradham because he's going to be moved to that suspended list very early on. So we're going to see what this linebacking core looks like for Week 1 very soon.
Indeed. And again, you're not going to see guys like Hicks tonight. You're not going to see Bradham tonight. Leroy Reynolds is someone who to keep an eye on there, because of the depth there. Kamu Grugier-Hill. What do you think of his summer as someone who established himself as one of the preeminent special teams players in the league last season? It looks like that he probably could be the guy who's the starting weak side linebacker to enter the season. It's been a great battle throughout the summer between he and Nathan Gary.
I mean, he is a freak show athlete for the linebacker position. Has some safety background as a defensive back, but as a linebacker, he is an outstanding athlete, can play sideline to sideline, has made so many plays this summer where you see him fly downhill, knife through the protection, get into the backfield and make a play on the running back. He can make plays as a blitzer. He can make plays in coverage. You talked about the special teams value as well. From a negative standpoint, he can get swallowed up by blocks, and that's really the number one thing you're looking for with both he and Nate Gary, who he's fighting with for that starting job on the weak side.
But the thing with him is, especially I think linebackers around the league in general, the coverage aspect is so important nowadays that you're almost going to value that because you don't want a mismatch going against a Corey Clement or a Darren Sproles out there in the backfield.
Yeah, no question. And I think that's where he gets by in coverage with his athleticism, whereas Gary is more about his instincts and his route recognition and those things. Gary makes some great plays in coverage as well, a college safety throughout his entire career in the Big Ten.
Indeed. So we're looking at the young defensive backs. Avonte Max, speaking of the young rookies, we expect to see a lot of tonight here. And we transition now to the running backs. Matt Jones, he's in that mix for that final spot there on the roster as we go around to see some of the defensive guys. Jordan Hicks, getting a chance to enjoy the night off. And, Christian Hackenberg, as we start to see team drills, the team warm-up period here. Christian Hackenberg under center there. So a lot of positions to watch there. But as we go back to these young defensive backs, once again, Avonte Max seemed to be in the mix for that nickel corner job with Sidney Jones. And now it seems like Sidney Jones is going to be the guy, in my estimation, a week from tonight against Atlanta. But nonetheless, I've been impressed about how he's developed and how he's really risen to the challenge, especially when he did get some first-team snaps here during the practice sessions.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who, think about it, he gets taken in the second round of the draft last year, completely out of his comfort zone. He's got to go across the country to a place he's never lived before on his own. He's going to be on the sideline for his entire first year, something he's never done before. So, he's just completely out of his comfort zone. And now he's going to go and play inside in a position he's never played before. So really just an outstanding physical talent. He's had great flashes this year so far this summer. I'm excited about his development.
I just love what Stephen Means brings to the table. It's the old Tommy McDonald quote that Vince Lombardi said, where if I had 11 Tommy McDonalds, I'd win the Lombardi or I'd win the championship every single season. Having a guy like Stephen Means is so valuable because of the film breakdown he does. And look, he's breaking down the entire team. It's not just the defensive guys. You see Nelson Aguilar, you see the offensive players working in there as well as the players come off the field. And again, we are going to see the live introductions later on in the show, but you talk to guys like Lane Johnson and they talk about the value that Stephen Means brings to the table of having a guy like that who's going to push you to the limits in practice each and every day and does such great film breakdown work to give a quality scouting report on all the players, help his teammates get ready. So even if he's not active on game day, he's someone who's able to help out the other guys get ready to do their jobs.
Those are the little things, honestly, at every position that really just get lost in the shuffle between media and fans and everybody just following the game. Someone like Stephen Means, I'm so glad that story was able to be told over the course of the last year.
Indeed. So those are the warm-ups now. What we're going to do is we're going to send it back over to the link, but what we're going to do is we're going to get the players to watch because there's so many young guys to keep an eye on, but we're going to hear which ones you need to focus on, courtesy of Eagles insider Dave Spadaro and Amy Campbell. Take it away.
Yes, Chris, we've got some players to watch because there are some jobs to be won tonight. Amy, you begin.
Oh, yeah. Well, you talk about jobs to be won. You said on your podcast earlier this week, Shelton Gibson has been the story of this preseason. A lot of opportunity there with Alshon Jeffrey's health kind of up in the air day to day there. Some of the other receivers not in the preseason. He's taken advantage of that opportunity, but I want to see that consistency from him tonight.
From a new quarterback, and that quarterback to watch tonight for me is Christian Hackenberg. What happens if he plays really, really well tonight? Does he earn a spot on the practice squad? It's really something to watch as the Eagles look to develop young quarterbacks. Joe Callahan and Christian Hackenberg get the shot tonight, so they have a chance to earn a spot in 2018 on the Eagles.
Yeah, Hackenberg, a very intriguing one to watch with his up and down story. It's going to be awesome to see what the Eagles do with him.
Yeah, so Christian Hackenberg will play a lot. We'll also keep an eye on Shelton Gibson, among others. Chris, back to you.
Thanks, Dave. And Amy, that practice squad, don't laugh at it. It is very important. You look at a guy like Nathan Gary. A year ago, he started his rookie season on the practice squad, was elevated to the active roster. Nate Sudfeld, look at the quarterback position, in the same boat there. So Christian Hackenberg, a rare situation where a quarterback is selected in the first 2 rounds of the draft and doesn't play a single regular season snap for the team that selected him. That happened once years ago to Jim Kelly, but the USFL was involved, totally different circumstances. But going into the draft, you study these quarterbacks very closely each and every year. You liked Hack much more than most analysts.
Yeah, because I think when you looked at Christian Hackenberg, you had the physical tools. You had the size, the arm strength, the pocket poise, the ability to move inside the pocket when there was pressure. There was a lot to like with Christian Hackenberg. Now, he had his warts. There was the erratic accuracy at all 3 levels of the field, just the inconsistent play overall. That was a little bit of an issue. But overall, the tools were there for him to turn into a starting quarterback. Obviously, did not see that kind of development in New York. He didn't get it for the 3 months in Oakland. So now you got to see what can he do here in Philadelphia. I'm really excited to see what he does here tonight.
We've seen what Nate Sudfeld did going from last year, being waived by Washington, coming to Philadelphia, and what he's done this preseason. We wonder if a year from now we could be talking the same about Christian Hackenberg with the outstanding coaching staff that the Eagles have in place to develop and tutor quarterbacks. So those are the players to watch, but how about the key storylines to follow? Let's get some more from the insider and Amy Campbell.
Yes, we do have some storylines tonight, Chris. Amy, look, there's a lot to be won tonight. There are jobs on the line, not only on the Eagles, but on 31 other teams. But from an Eagles game plan standpoint, what do you want to see?
I think it really starts for me with the offensive line. Can they keep the quarterback upright? Allowed 7 sacks last week against the Browns, and of course a lot of the starters are out, but we saw Brandon Brooks on Unscripted this week. He said those hits on the quarterback are still real hits, and so I want to see if that communication and that rhythm can take another step in the development. And then when you talk about sloppiness, it's the turnovers for me as well. They allowed 4 last week, and granted, again, a lot of the starters are out. Starters are going to be out tonight, but that is still something that can be cleaned up, and I want to see this offense just kind of hit that rhythm, keep the quarterback upright, protect the football, just, the little things.
Another shutout, no good. How about the kicking game? Cameron Johnson has a chance to win a job tonight. He's punted very, very well. He's held the ball well for Jake Elliott, so this is the final chance for Johnson, I guess, to lose the job. He kind of looks like he's won the job, where he's really kicked the ball beautifully. And then for me, the run game in focus, Wendell Smallwood, Josh Adams. There is a roster spot to be won there. Those two seem to be in the lead with the competition for Matt Jones as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Like you said, those bubble guys, I want to see who's going to step up of those guys that are on the bubble to make the team, and the practice squad too.
Yeah, and remember, it's the practice squad for the Eagles and for 31 other teams in the NFL. So the players making it tonight on special teams, practice squad, other teams, a lot at stake. Chris, back to you at the NovaCare Complex.
Thanks, Dave. And Amy, very interesting point there about Cameron Johnson. He has had a very solid preseason, so it'll be great for him to win the job and create that stability going into the regular season, especially in the field goal kicking unit with Rick Lovato and Jake Elliott. But with the offensive line there, are you concerned? I mean, certainly there's been some up and down performances, and everyone's going to point to Halapoulivaati Vaitai, but as a whole with this unit, are you worried about September 6th, a week from now, and Atlanta, that aggressive defense that Dan Quinn is going to throw at the Eagles?
Yeah, I think when you look at this Eagles offensive line over the course of this summer, you look at Lane Johnson at right tackle, Brandon Brooks at right guard, Jason Kelce at center. Those 3 guys have looked outstanding, and they form really the best right side in the NFL along the offensive line. Stefan Wisniewski has looked very good. We haven't seen Jason Peters during the games, but we've seen him during practice. He looks like he's back to his old self. So I'm excited about this offensive line. Isaac Seumalo has gotten better. There's been a lot to like about this Eagles offensive line. We've just seen the ups and downs here with Halapoulivaati Vaitai, and that's something that he's continuing to work through. But overall, I think this line is still one of the best in the NFL, no question.
I'm going to tell you something interesting about Seumalo, who has done pretty much everything for this offensive line in preseason and training camp. Jason Kelce called him the most outstanding player of this year's training camp.
That's awesome.
A lot of people would be like, because everyone's talking about the snaps and the plays at center. Outside of that, being so versatile, ready to play left tackle at the drop of a hat. It's been very, very impressive. So from that standpoint, Seumalo has certainly edged his place here on the 53-man roster. Offensive line, especially with guys like Jordan Mailata, Matt Pryor, going to be very intriguing to see what they do with the depth chart there moving forward. So we have something a little different for you here tonight. We're going to check out what the players and even maybe some of the coaches have been posting on social media. And, not a lot to post on social media before the game. Everyone's focused on that first and foremost there. So one last point I want to make about the offensive line. And you mentioned Jason Peters, how we haven't seen him yet in the preseason.
Sure.
It's hard to expect him, and he's an absolute freak, okay? He's been phenomenal throughout his career. Jeff Stoutland's called him the man on a mission because he wants to keep proving the doubters wrong. Even if he doesn't play at that all-pro level, because I feel like he was back at that elite level last year before he got injured against Washington. Even if he's not at that level, still going to be very, very good production for whomever is at quarterback a week from tonight, whether it's Nick Foles or Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I think you can expect that he's going to come back and at least be able to play at a good level. It may not be something where, he's going to be better than Tyron Smith and Trent Williams. There's no reason to think that Jason Peters is going to come back and not look like Jason Peters that we saw a year ago. So I'm really excited about his return to the field next Thursday night.
Fran, I can't believe the next time that you're here sitting alongside me for the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta, it's going to be the regular season opener. And we're not just talking about the Eagles opener, the NFL opener here for the 2018 regular season. Fran, great stuff as always. We're going to take our first break here on the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. Later on, we're going to have the team introductions. But if you want to watch, you need to come on over from social media to PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the app to watch the rest of the show. We'll give you these few minutes to get situated.